Begin. The last glimmer of fairy lights winked out as the final car pulled away from Sarah's house. The lively chatter, the pop of balloons, and the happy shouts had faded into a quiet hum. It had been a wonderful party, full of laughter and good wishes. 18. A big number, making her feel grown up and excited for what came next. Her living room, once buzzing with friends and family, now looked like a colorful mess of wrapping paper, leftover cake crumbs, and stray streamers. Empty soda cans stood like little silver soldiers on the coffee table. Sarah stretched, a happy sigh escaping her lips. Her feet, tired from dancing, felt a little tingly. She watched from the doorway as Michael, her older brother, slowly began the cleanup. He moved with a practiced ease, gathering plates into a stack, his brow furrowed just a little in concentration. He was always so dependable, always there to help, even after a big party like this. Most of her friends had offered to stay and help, but Michael had shooed them away, telling them to go enjoy the rest of their Saturday night. He said he preferred to do it himself, that it was faster that way. The air, still sweet with the smell of vanilla cake and punch, felt cooler now that the house was emptying. The music had stopped, leaving a soft quiet that let her hear the gentle clink of dishes as Michael stacked them. She leaned against the doorframe, watching him, a new feeling bubbling up inside her. It wasn't just the happiness from her birthday, it was something else, something warm and a little bit brave. She thought about all the cards, all the thoughtful gifts, the warm hugs from her aunts and uncles. But there was one gift she hadn't given, one thought she hadn't shared, until now. As Michael bent down to pick up a fallen balloon, its string tangled around a chair leg, Sarah took a deep breath. She had been planning this moment, or at least dreaming about it, for a long time. The party had been the perfect cover, a bustling shield for her secret feelings. Now, with everyone gone, the house felt big and empty, but also private and safe. It was just the two of them. The perfect time. She pushed herself off the doorframe, her heart doing a little flutter kick in her chest. Each step she took was quiet, soft on the carpet, moving her closer to where Michael was humming a low tune, still focused on the scattered remnants of her celebration. The last guest had left, the door had clicked shut, and a new kind of quiet had settled over the house, filled only with the soft sounds of cleanup and the fast beat of Sarah's heart. And begin. The soft rustle of Sarah's clothes was barely a whisper as she moved across the room. Michael, still humming a little tune to himself, was busy folding up a long plastic tablecloth, trying to get the creases just right. He hadn't noticed her yet, his mind set on finishing the task. The house felt big and quiet now, the way it did late at night, but it also felt different. It was a special quiet, filled with the promise of something new. Sarah stopped just a few steps behind him. She watched the way his strong hands worked, how his hair fell just a little over his forehead as he bent down. A small smile played on her lips. She had known Michael her whole life, of course. He was her big brother, her protector, her first friend. He had taught her how to ride her bike, how to skip stones on the lake, and how to tell the funniest jokes. But lately, things felt different. Not bad different, just more. Like a new color had been added to a picture she thought she knew well. She had rehearsed this in her head 100 times, maybe 1,000. Each time, the words felt both silly and incredibly important. Would he laugh? Would he be confused? Or would he understand, truly understand, what she meant? Her stomach did a little flip, like a tiny bird trapped inside. She closed her eyes for a quick second, gathering all her courage, letting the feeling of her 18th birthday, of being grown up, wash over her. "Michael," she said, her voice a little softer than usual. He straightened up quickly, dropping a corner of the tablecloth. "Sarah? I thought you went to bed. What are you doing still up?" He looked surprised, and a little tired. He probably just wanted to finish cleaning and finally rest. His eyes, usually so easy to read, held a question. Sarah walked around the table, until she was standing right in front of him. The tablecloth lay forgotten between them, a crumpled white mountain. She didn't look at the mess, or the clock, or anything else in the room. Her eyes were fixed on his, steady and full of a feeling she hoped he would see. The soft glow from the kitchen light behind them made a gentle halo around his head. He shifted his weight, waiting. She could feel his attention, like a warm blanket. This was it. The moment she had built up in her mind. The air felt thick, heavy with unspoken words. She took another deep breath, letting it fill her lungs with the sweet smell of her birthday. This wasn't just about a birthday present, it was about everything that came next. It was about being 18, and brave, and finally ready to say what was in her heart. And begin. The air between them seemed to shimmer, thick with the unsaid. Michael's gaze, at first surprised, softened into curiosity. He waited, his hands still, his body turned fully toward her. Sarah took another small step, then another, until she was standing very close to him. So close she could feel the warmth radiating from him, smell the faint scent of his cologne mixed with the lingering party smells. It was a closeness that felt different from their usual brother-sister hugs or quick chats. This was new, and it made her heart beat even faster. She lifted her eyes to meet his. His eyes, usually a clear, bright blue, seemed deeper now, like the night sky just before the stars come out. She looked into them, not just at them, trying to pour all her feelings, all her hopes, into that one look. There was no need for words yet, not while their eyes were doing all the talking. She saw a flicker of confusion there, then understanding, then something else she couldn't quite name, something warm and gentle, like the sun on a spring morning. Her hand, almost without thinking, reached out and lightly touched his arm. It was a soft touch, just her fingertips grazing the fabric of his shirt. A small jolt, like static electricity, passed between them. He didn't pull away, instead, he seemed to lean into it, just a tiny bit. The tablecloth lay forgotten on the floor, a white cloud between their feet. The silence stretched, not awkward, but full. It was a silence that held all the years they had known each other, all the unspoken moments, and all the dreams she was now brave enough to share. She saw the question in his eyes, clear as day. What is it, Sarah? What's going on, but he didn't say it aloud. He just stayed still, letting her lead, letting her find her way. This quiet understanding between them was something she cherished, a special bond that had always been there. But tonight, it felt like that bond was changing, growing into something bigger, something more tender. The house was completely still now. No distant car sounds, no sleepy chirping of birds. Just the two of them, standing close, their eyes locked, the world outside fading away. Sarah felt a wave of calm wash over her, pushing away the last bits of nervousness. This was it. She was here, he was here, and the moment was perfect. She could feel the words forming in her mind, ready to be spoken, ready to change everything. She took one more breath, filling her lungs, steadying her voice. And begin. Sarah's gaze never left Michael's eyes. Her voice, when it came, was a soft whisper, almost swallowed by the quiet room. It was a voice filled with all the courage she had gathered, all the dreams she had dared to dream. I didn't get you a present, she began, her fingers still gently resting on his arm, feeling the warmth of his skin through his shirt. Her heart pounded like a drum against her ribs, but her voice stayed steady. This was it. The moment she had rehearsed 1,000 times, now real, now happening. Michael's brow furrowed slightly, a hint of confusion returning to his blue eyes. He probably thought she was talking about a birthday gift for him, something she might have forgotten to give him earlier in the evening. He started to open his mouth, perhaps to say something comforting, like "You don't need to get me anything, Sarah," or "Your birthday is enough of a present." But before he could, she leaned in just a little closer, her gaze intense, holding him captive. Then came the words, carefully chosen, spoken with a bravery that made her feel taller, stronger than ever before. Words that had lived in her heart for so long, waiting for this perfect, quiet moment. But what if I was the present? The question hung in the air between them, shimmering like the last bits of stardust from her party. It wasn't a question about a wrapped box or a shiny new thing. It was a question about a whole new kind of gift, one that came from deep inside her, one that offered herself, her heart, her future. Her whisper seemed to echo in the sudden, complete stillness of the room. Every sound, every thought, every little thing seemed to stop. Michael's eyes widened, the blue deepening to a stormy ocean color. The faint smile that had been playing on his lips vanished. His jaw went slack, and the muscles in his arm, beneath her fingertips, suddenly tensed, then froze. It was as if a switch had been flipped, stopping him right in the middle of a breath, in the middle of a thought. The words had hit him, not like a gentle breeze, but like a sudden, powerful wave, knocking all the air out of him. Sarah watched him, her own breath held tight in her chest. She saw the shock register on his face, then something else, something she couldn't quite place. It wasn't anger, or fear, or even simple surprise. It was deeper, more profound. The kind of look someone gets when the world they thought they knew suddenly shifts beneath their feet. The tablecloth, the party mess, the quiet house, everything faded into the background. There was only her, and him, and the powerful, surprising question she had just asked. The wait for his reaction stretched on, feeling like an eternity. And begin. Michael stood absolutely still, like a statue carved from surprise. The faint hum of the refrigerator in the kitchen, the gentle tick-tock of the grandfather clock in the hall, these tiny sounds seemed impossibly loud in the sudden silence that had fallen between them. His eyes, fixed on Sarah's, were wide and unblinking. It was as if her words had not just stopped him from moving, but had stopped time itself. The air, which had been thick with unspoken feelings, now felt charged with a different kind of energy, almost like before a lightning storm. He hadn't expected this. Not from Sarah, not like this. His mind raced, trying to catch up with what his ears had just heard. I didn't get you a present. But what if I was the present? The words spun in his head, each one a little bell ringing. Was this a joke? A game? Sarah sometimes had a funny way of saying things, but this felt different. This felt very, very real. The intensity in her gaze, the way her hand still rested on his arm, light but firm, told him this was no playful teasing. His breath seemed to have caught in his throat. He tried to speak, but no sound came out. His lips parted, but they felt dry and clumsy. It was like his brain was working too fast, trying to sort through 1,000 new thoughts all at once, leaving his body unable to respond. He could feel the warmth of her fingers through his shirt, a small anchor in the storm of confusion and wonder that had just erupted inside him. The feeling that washed over him wasn't just surprise. It was a mix of shock, yes, but also a deep, trembling wonder. Could she really mean what he thought she meant? His sister, Sarah, the girl he had watched grow up, the one he had always protected. Was she standing here, offering him something so profound, so unexpected, that it shook him to his very core? It was a question that had the power to change everything, to redraw the map of his world. He felt a blush creep up his neck and spread across his cheeks. He wasn't sure if it was from embarrassment, or excitement, or just the sheer unexpectedness of it all. His heart hammered against his ribs, a frantic drum solo. He wanted to say something, anything, to break the quiet, but the words were still stuck. He just stared at her, his mind struggling to process the impossible, beautiful idea she had just laid before him. The world had shifted on its axis, and he was left standing, frozen, right at the center of it. The weight of her words, heavier than any gift he'd ever received, settled deep within him. And begin. Michael's mind whirled, a tornado of thoughts and feelings. Sarah's words, "What if I was the present," echoed in his head, each syllable peeling back layers of old understanding. He saw her not just as his little sister anymore, but as a young woman, brave and beautiful, standing before him with a look in her eyes he had never truly noticed before. It wasn't the playful challenge of a sibling, or the easy comfort of family. It was something deeper, something that made his chest ache in a way he hadn't known was possible. He thought about all the years, all the moments they had shared. Childhood games in the backyard, her small hand clutching his as they crossed the street, late-night talks about school and dreams. He had always seen himself as her protector, the big brother who would chase away her monsters and fix her scraped knees. But in this moment, looking at her, seeing the courage shining in her eyes, he realized she wasn't a little girl needing protection anymore. She was a person, strong and clear, making a choice, offering something immense. A warmth spread through him, starting from where her fingers still rested on his arm and blooming outward. It wasn't just the warmth of her touch, but the warmth of a feeling he couldn't quite name. It was exciting, yes, but also a little bit scary. Like standing on the edge of a high dive, knowing the water below was deep and inviting, but also a little bit unknown. What would it mean if he accepted this present? What would it change? Everything, he realized, and nothing. It would change the way they saw each other, yes, but it would also deepen the bond that had always been there, making it richer, more complex. His thoughts tumbled over each other. Was this what she had always felt? Had he been blind? He remembered little things, her lingering gaze sometimes, a laugh that sounded a little too happy when he was around, the way she sometimes leaned into him just a little too long when they hugged. He had dismissed them as sisterly affection, normal family closeness. But now, through the lens of her startling question, they took on a new meaning, a secret language he was only just learning to read. He felt a deep sense of awe. Sarah, his Sarah, was offering him something so precious, so vulnerable. It was a gift that could not be wrapped or bought, a gift of herself. And how did that make him feel? His heart throbbed with a feeling that was a strange mix of profound surprise, overwhelming tenderness, and a quiet joy that settled deep in his bones. He looked at her again, really looked at her, and a different kind of understanding began to dawn. He didn't have to fully grasp it all at once, he just had to feel it, and listen. And begin. The silence stretched, long and thick, punctuated only by the frantic drumming of Sarah's heart. She held her breath, her gaze locked on Michael's face, searching for any sign, any flicker of understanding or rejection. His eyes were still wide, fixed on hers, but they no longer held just surprise. Now there was a depth, a quiet intensity that mirrored her own. She had taken the biggest leap of her life, tossed her heart into the air, and now it hung there, waiting to see if he would catch it. Every second felt like an hour. The courage that had surged through her veins earlier now felt like a fragile thread, threatening to snap. Had she misread everything? Had she been foolish to think he would understand? A tiny seed of doubt began to sprout in the quiet corners of her mind, but she pushed it down. No. She had to be brave. She had to wait. Her hand, still resting on his arm, felt a slight tremor run through him. It was almost imperceptible, but she felt it. A sign of life. A sign that he wasn't just a statue, but a person processing, feeling, thinking. She wanted to say something, anything, to break the quiet, to help him, but she knew she couldn't. This was his moment now. His turn to respond, to choose. She had offered, and now she had to trust. The soft light from the kitchen cast long shadows across the living room, making the scattered party debris look like strange, sleeping monsters. But Sarah saw none of it. Her world had shrunk to just Michael's face, his eyes, the subtle movements of his expression. She saw his jaw clench, then relax. A muscle twitched in his cheek. He swallowed hard. She remembered all the times he had been her rock, her steady presence. When she fell off her bike, when she didn't get picked for the school play, when her first crush didn't like her back. He had always known what to say, what to do. But this was different. This was new territory for both of them. There was no playbook, no easy answer. The weight of the unspoken hung heavy, yet it wasn't crushing. It was more like a warm blanket, enveloping them both in a shared bubble of anticipation. She had shown him her deepest truth, and now she waited for his. It wasn't just about a present anymore, it was about their future, about a path they might walk together, or walk apart. Her chest tightened with a mix of fear and hope. She just needed him to say something, to do something, to give her a sign that he had heard her, truly heard her, and that he understood. The endless moment stretched, filled with the promise of what was to come. And begin. Just when Sarah thought she couldn't bear the silence a moment longer, a subtle change began to bloom on Michael's face. It started slowly, a tiny crinkle at the corner of his eyes, so faint she almost missed it. Then, his lips, which had been pressed into a tight line of surprise, began to soften, pulling upward at the edges. It was a slow, dawning smile, not a wide, boisterous one, but a gentle, knowing curve that reached his eyes. And those eyes. They weren't just wide with shock anymore. They were filled with a warmth that made Sarah's own heart swell. The blue seemed to deepen, sparkling with a new light she hadn't seen before. It was a look that saw her, truly saw her, not as his little sister, but as the young woman standing before him, brave and full of a quiet strength. It was a look that held tenderness, understanding, and something else, a shared secret, a mutual recognition. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. The smile, the way his gaze held hers, said everything. It was an answer, clear and beautiful, without a single word. The tension that had coiled in Sarah's chest began to unravel, replaced by a wave of relief so powerful it almost made her knees buckle. A small, shaky breath escaped her lips, a silent thank you to the quiet room, to the moment, to him. Michael's hand, which had been frozen at his side, slowly lifted. His fingers reached out, not to push her away, but to gently cover her hand where it rested on his arm. His touch was warm and steady, a silent promise. He didn't squeeze, just rested his palm over hers, a connection that spoke volumes. It was a gesture that sealed the unspoken agreement between them, a quiet acceptance of the profound offering she had made. In that moment, the world outside the living room faded entirely. The lingering smell of birthday cake, the scattered party hats, the general mess, none of it mattered. There was only the two of them, bathed in the soft glow of the kitchen light, connected by a look, a touch, and a feeling that was brand new yet felt as old as time. Sarah felt a blush creep up her own cheeks, not from embarrassment, but from the sheer joy of being seen, of being understood, of being accepted in a way she had only dared to dream. His smile grew a fraction wider, confirming it all. He looked at her not just with brotherly love, but with something deeper, something that sparkled with possibility. And begin. The silence, once heavy with unspoken words, now felt different. It was a comfortable quiet, a space waiting to be filled. Michael's smile deepened, and his thumb gently stroked the back of Sarah's hand where his own rested. This small movement was a cue, a silent invitation for her to continue. "Sarah," he finally said, his voice soft, a little rough from disuse, but filled with a tenderness that made her heart sing. "What? What do you mean?" He wasn't asking for clarification as much as he was asking for her to open up the meaning, to share the depths of her feelings. His eyes, still holding hers, were full of a gentle curiosity, free of judgment. Sarah took a shaky breath, the last vestiges of fear melting away under his warm gaze. "I mean," she began, her voice gaining strength, "that you've always been there. For everything. More than anyone else." She paused, searching for the right words, the words that could explain the tangled feelings in her heart. And lately, it's felt like more than just being brother and sister. It's like my world feels brighter when you're in it. And it's not just because you're family." She watched his face carefully as she spoke, looking for any sign of alarm or discomfort. But there was none, only that deep, understanding gaze. This encouraged her to continue, to peel back another layer of her heart. "I know it's a big thing to say," she admitted, a shy smile touching her lips. "And I know it might be surprising. But I wanted to be honest. I wanted to tell you that the way I feel about you, it's a very special kind of love. The kind of love that makes me want to be near you, to share everything with you, to see where this feeling can go." Michael's eyes never left hers. He listened, truly listened, his expression a careful mix of wonder and deep thought. He didn't interrupt, didn't try to lighten the mood. He just absorbed her words, letting them settle inside him. His thumb continued its gentle circle on her hand, a steady rhythm that calmed her. When I said what if I was the present, she continued, her voice now a confident whisper, I meant. What if you didn't have to look for anything else? What if I was everything you needed? Because you're everything I need. The last words were barely audible, a fragile offering, but they hung in the quiet air, powerful and true. He closed his eyes for a moment, a slow, deep breath filling his chest. When he opened them again, the tenderness was even stronger, mixed with a hint of something new, a blossoming joy. Sarah, he murmured, his voice thick with emotion. You are the most incredible present I could ever imagine. He squeezed her hand gently, a silent promise to explore this new, exciting path with her. The conversation had begun, and with it, a journey into the heart of what her words truly meant. And begin. The air around them seemed to shimmer, not with lingering party magic, but with something far more real and potent. Michael's gentle squeeze of her hand was a silent promise, a warm embrace that wrapped around Sarah's heart. In that moment, the world outside their small bubble ceased to exist. There were no messy party decorations, no quiet house, no ticking clock. There was only the two of them, connected by a thread of understanding that felt both brand new and deeply, wonderfully old. Sarah looked into his eyes, and saw not just the brother she had always known, but a man who saw her, truly saw her, in a way no one else ever had. His gaze was full of an unspoken tenderness, a recognition of the brave step she had taken, and a shared feeling that hummed between them. It was a feeling of profound connection, a sense of coming home to a place she hadn't even realized she was looking for. A soft, genuine smile bloomed on Sarah's face, mirroring his own. It wasn't the polite smile she offered to guests, or the happy grin she shared with friends. This was a smile born of deep relief and blossoming joy, a smile that reached her eyes and made them sparkle. She leaned in just a fraction, a silent invitation, and Michael responded instantly. He gently pulled her closer, his other hand coming up to cup her cheek, his thumb stroking softly. His touch sent shivers down her spine, a warm, electric current that left her breathless. It was a touch that spoke of care, of protection, and of a love that was just beginning to unfold. She closed her eyes for a moment, savoring the feeling, the quiet intimacy of the moment. When she opened her eyes again, Michael's face was very close. She could see the tiny flecks of gold in his blue eyes, the slight stubble on his chin, the way his eyelashes fanned out. He didn't rush, didn't push. He just held her gaze, letting the moment stretch, letting the unspoken feelings wash over them both. It was a space of pure feeling, where words weren't needed. Every beat of her heart, every soft breath, every glance shared between them was a conversation in itself. This was more than just a moment, it was a turning point. A quiet, powerful shift in the landscape of their lives. They stood there, bathed in the soft glow of the kitchen light, two souls finding a new alignment, a new closeness that felt destined and right. The world outside could wait. For now, there was only this profound, shared feeling, binding them together in a way neither had ever truly experienced before. And begin. The soft glow from the kitchen lights wrapped around them as if in a warm hug. Michael's hand, still cupping Sarah's cheek, shifted gently, his thumb tracing the line of her jaw. The world outside their quiet bubble remained forgotten, all focus on this shared space of new understanding. Sarah, Michael murmured again, his voice still a soft rumble, but now with a steady strength she hadn't noticed before. This feeling, it's not just you. I've felt it too. For a while now. His eyes, deep pools of blue, held hers with a certainty that thrilled her to her core. I didn't know how to say it. Or if I even should. A breath she hadn't realized she was holding escaped her lips. The confession, so honest and raw, was everything she had hoped for. It wasn't just her, then. This feeling, this connection, it was real and shared. So, Sarah whispered, her voice still a little shaky with emotion, what do we do now? The question hung in the air, not with anxiety, but with a gentle hope. The path ahead was unknown, but suddenly, the thought of walking it with him felt like the most exciting adventure. Michael's smile widened, a joyful light entering his eyes. He leaned in just a little closer, his forehead resting gently against hers. "We figure it out," he said, his voice a soft promise. "Together." His hand moved from her cheek, intertwining his fingers with hers, a firm, reassuring clasp. "No more hiding," Sarah stated, a quiet declaration. It wasn't just about their feelings, but about stepping into a new truth, a new way of being. "No more hiding," Michael agreed, his voice echoing her resolve. "We take it one step at a time. We talk. We listen. And we see where this takes us." He pulled back slightly, his gaze full of a tender excitement. "Are you ready for that, Sarah?" Sarah didn't hesitate. Her smile was wide and genuine, her eyes sparkling with happiness. "More than ready, Michael." He nodded, a look of profound relief and happiness washing over his face. "Good," he breathed, a soft laugh escaping him. "Because I think this is going to be something truly special." He squeezed her hand again, a silent pact. The messy living room, the quiet house, the lingering scent of cake, all these familiar things suddenly felt new, charged with the promise of tomorrow. They didn't have all the answers, but they had each other, and a shared feeling that promised to guide them. Their next steps were uncertain, but they would face them together, hand in hand, ready for whatever the future might bring. The journey had just begun. And